A few weeks ago, Prime Video flew me out to Los Angeles and put me in a lovely hotel to check out the first 2 episodes of the Fallout TV show early. And I have a lot of thoughts on what I saw, but don't worry, I won't be getting to any spoilers in this video. And other than that, I can pretty much say whatever I want about the show and my thoughts on it, including the fact that all episodes are streaming exclusively on Prime Video starting on April 11th. But otherwise, here's why I think a lot of you watching right now are going to really enjoy the Fallout TV show, or at least the first 2 episodes like I saw. I was pleasantly surprised with this one. One of the big takeaways I think a lot of Fallout fans will have after the first 2 episodes is just how insanely accurate many of the props and sets of the Fallout TV show are. A lot of the first episode focuses on the vault and being inside the vault. And these scenes were just live action Fallout 4, but in all of the best ways possible. The visuals of the Fallout TV show are nearly identical to the vault visuals of Fallout 4, and even the sounds match up perfectly. It was almost a surreal experience watching this one, where I had spent tens, if not hundreds of hours in vaults in Fallout games, but then seeing it in real life and actually getting used by the vault inhabitants was really enjoyable. You kind of realize, oh yeah, I've never actually seen someone reach up, open a vault door, and then turn around and close it after. It's such a small thing, but actually seeing the vault dwellers just go about their days and go about their lives and interacting with many of the things that we've used in the video games was really cool and special about the show. It genuinely made me feel like I was right there in the vault with those characters, like I could smell the vault because of how accurate the sounds and the visuals were. The vault scenes were definitely the most extreme example of that. I think a lot of Fallout fans out there are just going to absolutely gush over what is shown here, but honestly, through the first 2 episodes, this was non-stop for me. I found myself constantly pointing out familiar weapons from the games, including several from earlier pre-Bethesda titles, a ton of armors that were a perfect recreation, including a ton of Raider armors from Fallout 3, and even smaller things like random junk matching up perfectly to their Fallout 4 counterparts. So even before we get into the plot lines and some of the characters of this show, if you're just a big fan of Fallout, there's definitely going to be some dopamine from just seeing the TV show for the first time. It's like you're seeing your favorite video game come to life, and don't worry, it's not like they're just sticking to the 10mm pistol. I don't want to spoil anything, but some of the fun weapons from the Fallout franchise are used here as well, and these 2 looked phenomenal. But since seeing the show for myself, I've also seen some of the controversy online. There's new ways to fly in power armor, as well as now power armor faces all of a sudden can open up. Thankfully, I can report, at least through the first 2 episodes, these are very much so the exception, not the rule. The vast majority of what I saw in this TV show was almost exactly identical to what you have in the games, and these are literally the only 2 design changes I could think of. And thank God, when it comes to accurate depictions, it wasn't just the props and visuals. The show does a really good job at capturing the culture of Fallout as well. A lot of the vault stuff was pretty much what you'd expect. Naive, idealistic vault dwellers with no real sense of the outside world or wasteland. But as you can see from many of the trailers and marketing, Lucy is eventually thrust into the wasteland, and you'll find things both horrific and hilarious. The show can get pretty dark and gory. There are limbs lost and lots of visuals to accompany that happening. They didn't really pull any punches with these, and there were definitely moments where the audience watching was shielding their eyes because the Fallout TV show can get pretty gruesome at times. This is a dark post-apocalyptic future, and the show remembers that, and it accurately represents it on screen, and not in just, oh no, this guy got shot, he's bleeding. There are much darker undertones in some of these scenes that are very mature, and I'm really happy they're exploring them, but also silly. For as many moments that had me wincing, there were also plenty more that had me literally laughing out loud, and I'm not a big laugher. They did a fantastic job of capturing the hilarity that can pop up in the apocalypse, and a lot of this is mimicking the type of humor you see in the Fallout games, which I think is a very good thing. If you laugh at Fallout, you'll probably also laugh at the Fallout TV show. So now obviously I'm not going to ruin all of the punchlines of these funny moments, but overall from my experience, this was the most surprising part for me. The show was legitimately laugh out loud funny multiple times over the first couple of episodes, but it managed to strike this really nice balance of being funny while not making the wasteland feel like a joke. Things were still threatening and scary, but also just sometimes really freaking funny. It definitely did a good job at dark humor, and I think the overall layout of the show is going to end up being a really good way to showcase this world. The Fallout TV show has 3 main protagonists, with Lucy, the Ghoul, and Maximus. The first couple of episodes really focus on introducing you to these characters, and they're fairly self-explanatory. Lucy, the idealistic vault dweller that's now thrust into the wasteland, the ghoul is the darker gunslinger, and Maximus is a Brotherhood scribe. The first 2 episodes come with a gigantic emphasis on these characters, so I think a lot of you watching that end up watching the TV show will develop strong feelings relatively quickly. Like day 1, there's going to be Lucy fans, Maximus fans, and the ghoul fans, and you might not like the other characters as much. Lucy gets a lot of attention in the first episode because she's the perspective we're watching for the vault stuff, the in the vault stuff specifically, but then also as we're introduced to the wasteland, it's really through her eyes as she's being introduced to the wasteland as well. And one nice aspect of Lucy's story is they do begin to explore some largely overlooked aspects of the Fallout world. People in the Fallout TV show have very strong opinions about vault dwellers. This was shared in some of the already released trailers. You could see Lucy's back and forth with this shopkeeper, and I found it to be a really nice touch of the show. It's one of those things that is somewhat present in the games, but definitely more present in the TV show, and it just makes sense. You have these people hiding out for ages in giant bunkers who think they're now going to save the world whenever they leave, compared to a bunch of other people just struggling to survive in the wasteland. Makes a lot of sense that wastelanders would have strong opinions on vault dwellers, and this is just one easy example as to how this show is expanding and some of the existing ideas that are shown in the games, but not super well explored in the games. The ghoul really has 2 introductions. There's pre-war stuff we could see partially in the trailers, and while I can't really share much info on this due to spoilers, the pre-war scenes they have in the first 2 episodes are absolutely amazing. Like, I would say this was legitimately my favorite part of the show so far, not because the post-war stuff is bad, like the wasteland stuff's also epic, but just the tragedy that is conveyed during some of these pre-war scenes is absolutely captivating. And I really do hope later on into the show that they explore the pre-war in entire episodes, or at least major chunks of episodes. But the ghoul also has his own epic wasteland introduction later on as well. And for me, the third major protagonist with Maximus was the best acting and the one to really steal the show. Maximus is played by Aaron Moten. He is a Brotherhood scribe with some kind of obscure backstory. Honestly, it's not like I'm saving you from spoilers. I don't even know his backstory, and pretty much everything I know was already shown in the trailers anyway. A lot of the scenes of the Brotherhood can get really intense, and Maximus here is doing a lot of face acting, and Aaron Moten absolutely kills it in these scenes. I feel like the Brotherhood of Steel always end up being a touchy subject, but from what I've seen thus far, I really like what they're doing. It's going to be not only lore friendly, but also an interesting take on the faction that I'm excited to see explored further. It's actually one of the things I'm most excited to see going forward in the show. And while I am specifically highlighting Maximus's acting here, that's because it was a standout. It was just incredibly well done, but really the acting in the show overall was incredibly well done. It really feels like a high budget production, and that applies to all aspects of the show. So okay, that's nice. I just talked a bunch, but I'm sure a lot of you are left with that question. Should you actually watch the Fallout TV show? Is this good? The big takeaway I had after the first 2 episodes is how little I actually knew about the core plot and overarching conflict. It feels like episodes 1 and 2 really had the focus and goal of establishing the major characters, the factions, and the start of a plot. But I imagine episodes 3, 4, and 5 will be the big ones to move that plot forward and establish the core conflict of the Fallout TV show. Because thus far, the plot hasn't really moved all that much. It leaves things at that tipping point. The first 2 episodes were really carried, for me at least, by the intrigue and seeing the live action Fallout, actually seeing this world come to life on a bigger screen. And while that did work for episodes 1 and 2, I don't think it would work as well for 3 and 4. Those episodes need to start becoming an actual TV show with things properly moving forward. And that's not to say that it can't or won't happen, but I only saw the first 2 episodes, so I don't really know right now. A lot of my experience was more just eye candy. It's a beautiful show, and I think Fallout fans will easily get sucked into this one. If you put a lot of hours into any Fallout game, I think this is a must-watch show for you. But as far as a general TV audience, or just a general TV show, I don't feel like I've seen enough of the show to actually know how well or badly this one will review. The first 2 episodes do a really good job at leaving you at a point where you're curious for more, but I could definitely see that curiosity being quickly ended depending on how things go. Although I honestly do have fairly high hopes for the writing on this one. Some of the more contained pre-war plotlines were just so well done that it does make me genuinely excited to see what they explore going forward. Because at the very least, I am incredibly excited to see more. They did a fantastic job in these first 2 episodes of giving each individual character their own identity. And I think viewers will very rapidly form feelings around these characters. It brings you back to the Game of Thrones era if you lived through that, where part of me is just excited to see some of these moments between Maximus and Lucy like we've seen in certain trailers. By the end of episode 2, you have a pretty good idea of their overall vibe and feelings towards the wasteland. So it's like one of those things where I would love to just see them have that conversation. What opinions are they going to have that align, and how are they going to differ? And even a nice touch on this is what weapons some of the main protagonists use. Lucy and the Ghoul wield newly introduced weapons into the Fallout franchise. And I think this is for a reason. The Ghoul has this over-the-top gyrojet shotgun that's super aggressive, while Lucy has a less than lethal syringer. Each of those match up very well with the personality profiles of those characters, and I can't imagine that's a coincidence. The TV show managed to do an incredibly good job at introducing these major characters and factions without actually telling you what their core motivations or goals are. Evidently, we see these three unite at some point, but I have no idea what they're actually after. It's not like I'm holding back a spoiler, I just don't know the answer yet. But at the very least, what these first 2 episodes did is get me excited for more. I'm excited for the show overall, but also specifically, I want to know what's going on with the Brotherhood of Steel and where this overarching story goes. I'm excited to revisit the Vault later on just to see what's going on there. How do those storylines evolve as we're away from them? And I'm excited to see more of the showrunner's vision and really message with the Fallout universe. The first couple of episodes just get your feet wet, but I think going forward, you'll really start to see what aspects of the universe they are choosing to explore. Because from what little I've seen of this thus far, I'm really excited. In many ways, watching this show feels like you're watching the story of a spin-off Fallout game unfold, and I think a lot of you are going to really enjoy that. Overall, I really liked what I saw of the Fallout TV show, and if you played a Fallout game or already own Amazon Prime, this is definitely worth watching day one. And day one is April 11th, as all episodes will be streaming on Prime Video then. And a huge thank you to Prime for giving me the opportunity to get an early peek at this show. And let me tell you, I am very excited for whatever is to come next.